Hello and welcome to day 14 of the 30-day Business English Idiom Challenge. I'm excited to get started on today's idioms, which are on the topic of meeting standards. First of all, I do need to say apologies, this wasn't at the usual time this morning. It's later on in the day, but I do hope that many of you will be able to join in on the replay. I'm sure that you will. Whether you choose to join live or on the replay, welcome and thanks for being here. We're on a 14-day streak, which is amazing. Okay, so we're looking at meeting standards. Just a quick reminder that an idiom is an expression that you need to learn the meaning of. You can't figure out the meaning from the literal meaning, and they are used frequently by native speakers in business English. They're not used in written communication in business English because it would be too informal. And just remember that a native speaker wouldn't use all the idioms all at once. They would use them sparingly, which means a little bit at a time. So just bear that in mind or remember that when I show you the examples I'm going to use. Okay, today we are looking at raise the bar, hit the nail on the head, hit the bull's eye, push something over the goal line, and move the goalposts. And as always, we'll look at them in context and we will look at examples of them and synonyms and all that good stuff. I want to look at the idioms in context so you can get a feel for them. And we'll do this at the beginning and at the end, and hopefully you will have drastically increased your understanding by the end. Okay, I'm just going to read through it, and I'm not going to stop and explain it, but I will the second time that I go through it. Okay. Lately, it seemed like the team hadn't exactly hit the bullseye on how they met project deadlines. Everyone was determined to raise the bar. The first step was to assess the situation. It soon became clear that miscommunication between people about priorities was causing many delays. During a team meeting, Chris stated he felt that was the root cause of the issue, and everyone agreed he had hit the nail on the head. Everyone felt like other departments were constantly moving the goalposts. They agreed to have one central place for recording their goals and their progress. This seemed to work better, and at the end of the month, they managed to push the project over the goal line on time. Okay, so some of the idioms you might be really familiar with. The other ones that you're not so familiar with, you might be able to kind of get a feel from the context, perhaps, although, like I said, you need to learn the literal meaning. But we're going to go through them one by one, and then we'll come back to that extract. So, raise the bar. Here's two examples. The new standards raised the bar for customer service quality in the company. The second one, by implementing stricter safety regulations, the organization has raised the bar for the entire industry. Okay, so by getting stricter rules around what you need to do to be safe, that one company has raised the bar for everyone. So what does that mean to raise the bar? Well, to set a higher standard or level of expectations, to raise the level which is considered the minimum that needs to be done, so the standard. So we can talk about elevating standards, increasing expectations, or setting higher goals. So this is something that you can talk about in your personal life as well. Like, I want to raise the bar on my English speaking. So we can raise the bar for something or on something or in something. So I want to raise the bar for the standard of meetings that we hold. I want to raise the bar on my English speaking, and so on and so on. Okay, here's a prompt for you. I'd love if you could join in the comments, practice using the idiom, or use this as a speaking prompt and practice speaking, perhaps with ChatGPT. Oh, excuse me, perhaps with ChatGPT. If you open the mobile app, ask if you can have a back and forth conversation and have a chat with AI about this, or practice speaking for 2 minutes and then ask for feedback from AI. Whether you're practicing with writing or speaking, it's really important to go ahead and use them, especially if it's an idiom that you've heard before, because then you know that that will really be useful. Okay, so describe a time you have raised the bar in your personal or professional life. So, for example, I raised the bar when I did a postgraduate study. So I did a higher level of education, and that helped me raise the bar on my qualifications. What about you? I would love to see an example. Okay, the next one, hit the nail on the head. When John suggested improving our marketing strategy, he hit the nail on the head, as that has indeed been our main problem. You really hit the nail on the head with your analysis of the project issues. So what do you think that means if you hit the nail on the head? Well, it means that you have had like direct aim. So you have described exactly what is causing a situation or a problem. So I don't know if you've ever had that situation where you try and hit things with a hammer and you don't hit properly, and maybe like the nail kind of goes bent and it's all difficult and it's not good. But if you get it just on the right spot, it does what it's supposed to and it goes in, like you hit it exactly. So it means to describe exactly what is causing a situation or problem. So as you can tell, because you're describing a problem exactly, it's mostly got a negative connotation, like a negative thought or feeling. But it can be used for neutral or positive things as well. So we can talk about getting it right, being spot on, and being exactly right. If you hit the nail on the head, it's often negative. Being spot on is more neutral or positive. So you might say, "Oh, that's exactly what I meant by that. Thank you. That was spot on. That was exactly right." Okay, so if you're using hit the nail on the head, you can say that you hit the nail on the head about something or with something or in an area. Here's a prompt for you. Describe a time someone hit the nail on the head in describing a problem. Okay, a time someone hit the nail on the head was when, and then what problem can you think of that was described exactly? Um, I think about issues in my industry and education. A time that someone hit the nail on the head was when they were describing issues with people needing to upgrade or raise the bar on their tech skills during COVID. And it was a time in which everybody was rushing to upgrade, and people weren't quite sure what the problem was, but maybe stress and overwhelm. So I remember them describing the issue was stress and overwhelm, and they hit the nail on the head when they were describing that. That was the main problem or main issue. What about you? Can you think of a time when someone hit the nail on the head and how they described a problem? Okay, hit the bullseye. Her proposal hit the bullseye and was immediately approved by the board. The marketing campaign hit the bullseye and increased sales significantly. So you can probably get this from the visual there. If you hit the bullseye, it means you were able to achieve exactly what you intended to achieve. You didn't just hit the dartboard, you hit right in the middle, which is what we call the bullseye. So you achieved your target exactly, you succeeded perfectly, get it exactly right. You did it absolutely perfectly what you wanted to achieve. So we can talk about hitting the bullseye with, in, or on. And this is meaning that you have like an extreme level of success. It was exactly what you intended to do. So here's a prompt for you. Describe a time you really hit the bullseye with a project. So when did you achieve a level of success where you think, oh my goodness, I couldn't have done that better? That was absolutely as good as I would ever have wanted it to be. And I'm really happy with that. We really hit the bullseye. Can you think of an example of a time that you hit the bullseye? Okay, push something over the goal line. This one's another one that when you look at the picture, you can probably figure out what it means, but let's look at the examples. We worked overtime to push the project over the goal line before the deadline. With everyone's efforts, we finally pushed the deal over the goal line. So if you, I don't know much about American football. I think that's American football there. But I know quite a bit about rugby because a lot of people in my family play or played rugby, including myself. And you have to go over the goal line to score. We don't call it a goal in rugby, we call it a try. So you have to pass that line. And if you push something over the goal line professionally, it means you pass like the deadline or the end line. So you complete a task or project successfully. But this has got a connotation of it was a bit difficult, and if you push something, it was hard and you kind of just got there, right? Versus hit the bullseye is exact, perfect success. Pushing something over the goal line just feels a little bit more difficult, and there's this connotation of, whew, just got there. So you can finalize, complete, or bring to completion. So push, get, or bring something over the goal line. What was the most challenging project you managed to push over the goal line? What was the most challenging project you managed to complete? So have a think about that. Practice using the idiom. This one, move the goalposts. The clients keep, it should say keep the client. No, it shouldn't. I'm correcting myself as I read, which I don't need to do. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning again. The client keeps moving the goalposts, and it's making it difficult to finish the project on time. So this is a complaint that's being made. The next one, our manager moved the goalposts by asking us to add more features to the product just before the launch. So we can get a really distinct feeling that this is a negative thing. It means to change the criteria or demands of a task or project after it has started, making it harder to complete. So you agree that you're going to do XYZ tasks in 2 weeks. You get started, and then someone comes along and says, oh, actually, can you do it in 1 week? And actually, can you do 3 other things as well? And so the demands of the task get bigger, or the time that you're supposed to complete it in changes after you've already agreed it. So it's a negative thing. So we can talk about changing the rules, altering the criteria, shifting expectations, or this phrase here, scope creep. I think that's the most professional way of saying this. Move the goalposts is really informal. So that would be amongst friends in a professional setting. You can move the goalposts in, on, or for something. But I think scope creep is the phrase that would be used if you wanted to be formal and really professional. So that's what I've used in the prompt here. What strategies can be implemented to prevent scope creep in projects? So freelancers, people who work for themselves, often have difficulty with scope creep. Once the project has started, the parameters of the project has been agreed, it can be difficult to really stick to your goals and stick to what you agreed. So scope creep can be avoided by, I don't know, I'd love to hear from you. What, if you're a freelancer especially, how do you avoid scope creep? Do you have a written contract? Do you have a clause that says you will do a certain amount of changes? How do you avoid people moving the goalposts or allowing scope creep? And the scope is the boundary, the amount of work. And if something creeps, it moves very slowly. So that's saying that the boundary is changing very slowly. Okay, we're going to go back to the extract. We're going to read it through and stop and talk about it. And hopefully it will make a lot more sense than the first time that we read through it. Lately, it seemed like the team hadn't exactly hit the bullseye on how they met project deadlines. Okay, so the team had not been successful with getting projects completed on time. Hadn't exactly is a bit of a softener, and sometimes we use that to mean like, oh, it was just terrible. But it's softening the impact of saying it was terrible. So they hadn't exactly, that means like they really haven't. They haven't been successful in meeting the deadlines, getting things done on time. Okay, the second sentence. Everyone was determined to raise the bar. So everybody wants to get better. They want to do better. The first step was to assess the situation. It soon became clear that miscommunication between people about priorities was causing many delays. So they're having issues with getting things done on time because people are not communicating well. Okay, second paragraph. During a team meeting, Chris stated he felt that was the root cause of the issue. The root cause means the basic or most important foundational cause. That was the root cause of the issue, and everyone agreed he had hit the nail on the head. Everyone agrees that he has said exactly what the main problem was. And they're like, oh, yes, that's what it is. Ah, you've hit the nail on the head. It's exactly that. People are not communicating well. Okay, everyone felt like other departments were constantly moving the goalposts. So everybody feels like they've agreed what they're supposed to do, but then other people come along and tell them to do different things, and it gets very confusing. They agreed to have one central place for recording their goals and their progress. This seemed to work better, and at the end of the month, they managed to push the project over the goal line on time. They managed to get everything completed at the right time. Just a reminder that I will be placing these slides into my free resource library bit by bit, slowly over time, so your patience is appreciated. But once the whole challenge is finished, I will go back and there will be a course created with all of these materials that you can access and use should you want to review and do practice tasks and also take quizzes and things like that. But here's a really tiny mini quiz that you can have a go at, whether you are listening live or on the replay. And we're just going to read through these two questions, and I'll give you the answers as well. Okay, so number one, after the new management took over, they decided to something on quality control standards. A, hit the nail on the head. B, raise the bar. Or C, move the goalposts. Number two, every time we think we've met the client's requirements, they something and add more features. They A, hit the nail on the head, B, raise the bar, or C, move the goalposts. What do you think? Take a moment, have a think about it. What would you choose for number one? What would you choose for number two? And then let's go through it together. So, number one, after the new management took over, they decided to raise the bar on quality control standards. They decided to make their expectations of quality higher. Number two, every time we think we've met the client's requirements, they move the goalposts and add more features. Okay, so they're complaining about the clients. So that's something you do in an informal setting, obviously, amongst friends at work. And move the goalposts is quite informal. Scope creep would be a little bit more formal. Thank you so much for joining me for today's idioms. I do hope you'll be able to join in tomorrow. Take care. Bye, everyone.